Hello and welcome to this quick update where I'll show you the newest features in version 0.7 of the Mesoscale Brain Explorer, or MBE for short. So before I start, I would like to point out some mistakes in the previous versions that have now been corrected. So in the spatial filter that we had before, I was not correctly subtracting the result from convolving with the kernel. With the original data. You're supposed to do that so that you actually properly highlight the blood vessels, as you can see here. So just so you know, that has actually been corrected for. And as a result of that, you can now, of course, use the results from the spatial filter properly as your reference frame when you are doing alignment. The second mistake, which also had to do with alignment, was when you were averaging in version 0.5, so a previous version, you were actually averaging across videos, right? So across image stacks, but for only one frame. And some reflection should make you realize that this is drastically wrong because these files would not be aligned. So that would smoosh up your template to the point that it's not a good idea to use. Unless, of course, in my case, my data was already pretty well aligned, so it didn't make that much of a difference for me. So I never noticed that I was making that mistake. So it's been fixed instead, where over here, as you can see, instead now you have a range that you're aligning over, to which then, of course, properly does reduce your noise signal ratio. So, for instance, we can actually take the spatial filter, say, which you can see here, look at, say, the 400th frame all the way to, for instance, the 600th frame. And what we can do is then select here, we could say 600. So from 400 to 600 and compute this, right? So over here we've now computed a reference frame. This is one single frame. And as you can see, since we've averaged over all of those frames, and all of those frames have the blood vessels so highlighted as they are, the blood vessels are coming out even more clearly now, so this is an even better candidate template to align all of your files to. But of course, you will have to figure out yourself which range works best for you. Right, now let's get into the new features of the application. First and foremost, the application now has a help feature over here. So what's this? Shift F1. Click this, click on any UI element, and it should now contextually explain to you how to use that. Next, we'll move on to automation over here. So this is probably one of the biggest new features. What this essentially allows you to do is go to various plugins. So this you couldn't really do before. If we, for instance, set this to 128 and 128, go to another plugin and come back, you'll notice that it is still 128 by 128. Data is now persistent across all plugins, except of course for the ones that I have not finished yet. And what this allows you to do is set parameters such that the output of one plugin becomes the input to the next. So what we're going to do is, we already have these parameters the way we want. We'll cut off the first 20 frames, because as you can see, it's a bit blurry at the front. Then it clears out open. For the alignment, we have to select a reference frame. So note here that if I click this, go to another plugin and come back, I am still selecting the non-reference frame. If you want to automate across plugins and use the alignment, you have to select a reference frame that's being used. So when we're going through this automation, we import the files. The output from that goes to the cutoff. These video files then get 20 frames cut off from the start of the file. After that, those resultant files are then sent to alignment. And then whichever reference frame I've selected here is then used as the reference frame for those files, and all of them are aligned. Oh yes, and of course this is the frame in every single video that I'm aligning that is matched against the template, and whatever translation, rotation, or scaling that is found to match that to the template. That is applied across all image stacks. Next, I'm actually going to skip the set coordinate system. We need to crop. So what I shall quickly do is create an ROI. Right, so here I've set the ROIs. We can rename them over here. That will be saved. You'll notice that I have set the coordinate system. The reason for that is that the ROIs don't follow wherever you put the 0. They stay wherever they were originally placed. So for instance, if I was to move wherever the origin is, you can see that the ROI is not moving with where the brain is moving. This goes with units per pixel as well. So if I was to move this up or down, you can see that the ROI is staying the same size. So where did I put this ROI? So this is over the reference frame, or a reference frame. That is the same one that we put the spatial filter on. So we know that this spatial filter, which is covering the hemisphere, is what we are going to use to align everything to. So we know that we're safe, and we can, after that alignment, crop everything to this, because everything is being aligned to this. Right, so now we'll look at everything else. See, temporal filter, everything is how we want it to be. Calculate delta f over f. You don't need anything here, because what's happening again is just everything that comes out of the temporal filter is going to go to delta f over f, and then everything from that will go to global signal regression. So you select the particular plugins that you want. We're not selecting spatial filter because we're just using that to get the spatial filter over here. That's the reason we have the spatial filter plugin. We just wanted the reference frame. We don't want to create spatial filters en masse. So we have already set the coordinate system, so we don't need to do anything with that. Some of the plugins cannot be automated. The set coordinate system is one of those. It has no input or output if you think about it. The set coordinate system, you just select a bunch of these, choose an origin, and then average over it, and that sets the origin globally for the entire project. So it doesn't have an actual output that can be used in this. And you would see this if you, for instance, select this and select automate. This is not suitable for automation. So crop, temporal filter, calculate delta over f, and GSR. That is as far as we'll go for now. So we click automate. Oh, oops, and we'll see that the spatial filter over here has been selected, and that is also not suitable for automation. You can also left click to navigate amongst the ones over here, and then modify the parameters on the right to make sure that everything that you've selected that's about to be automated is correct. So for instance, for crop ROI to ROI, these are the ROIs we want to crop to, so we have to make sure that they're in view. For temporal filter, make sure that what parameters you want is correct. Make sure that your F0 source is as you want it. GSR is nothing we need to worry about. And then whichever plugin is at the very top, in this case, import image stacks, that is, you have to decide, of course, what gets pumped into this pipeline, because everything gets piped in will go through each and every single one of these steps. So let's make sure, okay, reference frame, cutoff 20, right, now let's automate it. So we'll select these 3 files and watch it do its magic. See it, right, and there you can see it imported the 3 image stacks, and it's immediately jumping towards creating a cutoff for each one. And you can see on the right the list is growing as all of the files are being done all in one shot. And as you can imagine, this pipeline is dynamic, so you can switch things around. If you wanted GSR to be at the top here, you could just use the configure pipeline, drag GSR to the top, and then you have a pipeline where one of the steps is in another position. So I will wait for this to finish and then come back to you. Yay, it seems to have worked. Here you can see we're at the end of the processing pipeline. At the very end, all the highlighted pieces. and all of the files have incrementally been processed, going through cropping, then temporal filtering, delta f of ref, and all the way to GSR, the end of our end plugin at the end of the pipeline. So I hope this is impressive. I'm hoping you can already imagine what you can do with this, because keep in mind that you can customize this and tailor it to your own needs. So if you configure the pipeline, GSR does not have to be down here. You could, where's GSR now? You could move it to be right after importing. You can see there's GSR up there now. You could have more than one global signal regression if you want to apply it more than once. You're not limited by that either. You could apply more than one temporal filter, except where one temporal filter has one bandpass and another has another bandpass, because the parameters in each one of these is saved independently. So if we go temporal filter, add this temporal filter here, say make this 3 and 3. You can see there it's being saved independently of each other. Of course, there's also things like plugins that I haven't even included here. So this is a concatenation. So if we added this somewhere over here, this would work a bit differently. Any files we put at the beginning of the pipeline would get temporally filtered and then temporally filtered again. And then all of those files would be concatenated together. And then the output from that concatenation keeps going down whichever selection you've chosen. Now, of course, everything is saved. Every single cut-off parameter that you've made is saved. And if we were to quit, let's quit there, start it up again. Start it up again. You can see the pipeline is still there. The parameters that we specifically specified for each one is still there. So, and everything is saved in a file that's easy to share. So if you created some custom pipeline for your analysis and you wanted to share it with someone else so that they could do the exact same analysis but on a different set of data, where the only thing they have to do is select their data and then click run so that it runs on your pipeline, they can totally do that, and they don't even have to understand what your analysis did. It would just push through everything that you've set up, and it would get to the end result. Another feature I'd like to point out is if we were to click on our table on the right here, if we double click on something, it opens up a video view of that file. So this is the delta f of ref after GSR. If you right click on this though, you'll see more options. You can remove the file directly from here. You can remove multiple at a time. I mean, as you can see, each and every single step in the pipeline is being saved, right? So you can select, if you just want the end files, you can select all of these immediately, just delete them, or detach from project, which means they're removed from this list, but they're still saved to file. And then quickly, this open video player. So if we click the scaled version, you can see there's no flicker in the background. So the entire video across all stacks is scaled from the maximum and the minimum value in the file. However, if we select the unscaled version, you can see there's now a flicker in the background. What this means is the video isn't scaled from a max or a minute scaled. Each and every single frame has its own scaling. What the second one is useful for is if your file is extremely large, say gigabytes large, then running the scaled one can take a considerable amount of time. In that case, if you click the unscaled one, it will load instantly, because it doesn't matter how large the file is. You're not loading the entire thing into memory, so it'll just look at the first frame from there. So, but the scaled one is, of course, what you need if you actually want to look at what it actually looks like. If you just want to take a quick peek, you have the unscaled version. And yes. So that's that. Do continue to use the What's This tool. It should help you a lot in different contextual areas. You can even use it here. Explains the deletion. And of course, if you're like confused about how to automate something, generally just going through the What's This on a particular plugin should help you out. Okay, in the next video I will show you something even cooler.